This is my follow-up review of the NewTeak product C-Flor, which is an interior teak and holly floor imitation. I installed this floor 2 or 3 years ago, and I find a lot of the time when you see reviews when you're sort of excited and it's new, they're impressive, and then you never hear again how they last a little long term. So 2 or 3 years is still not very long term, but if any problems have or are to creep up this early on, then you're in big trouble for 10, 15, 20 years down the road. Because this floor is glued down as well, if things start to go wrong, if it didn't wear well or there was difficulty with it, replacing it would be a real big problem. So far I've had absolutely zero trouble with it. It gets a lot of wear and tear. We now have 2 kids, which we didn't have before. When I put this in and they throw up on it and drop things on it and make a general mess. We also had our bilge pump fail at one point, and we had a leak that probably existed from the factory in the rudder post. When the boat was squatted down under motor, water would come in through the back and start to fill up the bilge. And with the working bilge pump, I never noticed, but one day the bilge pump failed and we were motoring and water came up onto the floor and submerged a portion of the floor for an hour or two easily, until I noticed and used the hand pump and then figured out the bilge pump had been airlocked or something along those lines. So the floor's had some abuse. We've also had leaks in the boat that have since been patched, so water would leak in through and get on it and be standing water on parts of the floor for long periods of time, and it's handled it just well, especially with people walking and all the wear and tear that comes with that. I never did get a chance to finish it entirely. The covers for the bilge are still the original teak and holly plywood, although I have the spare parts to do it. With life, I just haven't had a chance to get back to that project. But hopefully we'll do it sometime sooner rather than later. It will eventually get done. The only thing I sort of wish I did different, although it's very minor, is some of you who are more familiar with flooring will notice that the seams are all lined up versus staggered. You can see right there. Now, on a lot of boats that have real teak and holly, they do that as well because they put it in sheets. So that's kind of how I justify it to myself. But if I had to do it over again, I would have taken the extra time to stagger it. At the time when I was doing it, I thought staggering it would be too complex for the space. But in retrospect, it wouldn't have been hard at all, even just to stagger it a little bit at the seams. It may have added an hour total to the 20 plus hours it took. I forget how long it took me to install it myself. So anyone else who's sort of considering this product, it's fairly easy to do it yourself, but don't be afraid to stagger it. The glue comes up quite easily before it dries, so I would just put down a patch of glue, stagger it, and then just use a trowel to pull up the glue from the non-staggered pieces if I was finishing off and not doing another section at that time. I have to say I love it. It still solves one of my big complaints about the Catalina, and this one in particular, the kind of ugly floor that it had, and that, in my opinion, Catalinas generally have, although all boats that don't have teak or holly or imitation teak or holly suffer from that. And I like it much more than carpet, although there's nothing wrong with carpet. Many people use it very successfully. Just with kids and the water leakage problems I had, and the wear that the carpet can do to the gel coat on the ground, which had happened with the previous owner, I wanted to avoid it. So anyone who's considering this product, I still stand by it. Who knows, maybe in a couple more years I'll do another follow-up video and see how it's going.